The phone screen burned my eyes in the darkness. 2:47 a.m. My husband Mark's name glowed at the top of the message, and below it, a photo that made my blood run cold. Him in a cheap tuxedo, some woman in a white dress, standing in front of a neon chapel sign that screamed, "Vegas Wedding Chapel." The text below was worse. "Just married my coworker. You're pathetic, BTW." My hands didn't shake. They should have. After 34 years of marriage, you'd think betrayal would make you tremble. But as I sat up in our bed, my bed now I supposed, staring at that message, all I felt was a strange, cold clarity. The woman in the photo was young, maybe 30, blonde. Whitney from his office. The one he said was just a colleague. The one he'd been working late with for 8 months. I typed back one word. Cool. Then I got out of bed. Before we continue, shout out to Keisha Washington from Atlanta. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my bare feet on the hardwood floors Mark had complained about replacing for years. These floors that I'd paid for with my pension from 37 years teaching at Roosevelt Elementary. This house that I'd bought with my inheritance when my mother passed. This life that I'd built, that he'd just tried to blow up with a single text message. I walked to my office, the small room off the kitchen where I handled all our finances, and turned on the light. My hands moved with purpose as I pulled out the file folder labeled Accounts. Every credit card was in my name, had been since we married. Mark had bad credit back then, couldn't qualify for anything. So everything went under Dolores Patterson, my name, my credit, my responsibility for 34 years. I picked up my phone and started dialing. "Thank you for calling American Express. This is David speaking. How may I help you?" "Yes, I need to report my cards as stolen and cancel them immediately." "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Can you verify your account information?" I rattled off the numbers I'd memorized decades ago. 3 cards canceled in 15 minutes. Then I called Visa, then MasterCard, then the bank card. By 3:30 a.m., Mark had exactly 0 access to any funds except whatever was in his personal checking account, which, if I remembered correctly from last week's statement review, was roughly $472. The locksmith's number was in my phone under emergency contacts. I'd saved it 2 years ago when Mark locked himself out and I was at a teacher's conference. The man had been professional, quick, and hadn't asked questions. I hoped he'd be the same at this hour. "Patterson Locks, this is Jean speaking." "Jean, this is Dolores Patterson. We met a couple years back when you changed my locks on Oakmont Avenue." "Mrs. Patterson, yes ma'am, what can I do for you at—" He paused, probably checking the time. 3:30 in the morning? "I need my locks changed, all of them. Front door, back door, side garage entrance. Can you come now?" "Now? Ma'am, it's—" "I'll pay triple your emergency rate. My husband just married another woman in Las Vegas, and I want him locked out before he sobers up and tries to come home." There was a pause. Then, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. I made coffee. Strong, black, the way my grandmother used to make it on her wood stove back in Alabama. The smell filled the kitchen, familiar and grounding. I pulled out my favorite mug, the one my students had given me when I retired 5 years ago, hand-painted with "World's Best Teacher," and poured myself a cup. The doorbell rang at 3:52 a.m. Gene was a short man with kind eyes and gray hair that stuck up in the back like he'd just rolled out of bed, which he probably had. He carried a large toolbox and didn't comment on my bathrobe or the obvious fact that I'd been crying at some point, though my eyes were dry now. "Front door first?" he asked. "Front door first." I stood in the doorway, sipping my coffee, watching him work. The smell of metal and machine oil mixed with the coffee aroma. He removed the old lock, the one Mark had a key to, and installed a new one. Shiny brass, a fresh start. "You want me to give you all the keys, or should I make a spare set?" "All of them. Every single one." He moved to the back door, then the garage. By 4:45 a.m., Mark was officially locked out of his own life. I paid Jean in cash from the emergency fund I kept in the office safe, another thing Mark didn't know about, and tipped him an extra $100. "Thank you, Jean." "You take care of yourself, Mrs. Patterson. And if you don't mind me saying, any man who'd leave you is a damn fool." I closed the door behind him, the new lock clicking smoothly into place, and allowed myself a small smile. Then my phone rang. Mark's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, and again, and again. After the 7th call, I blocked his number. The doorbell started ringing at 5:30 a.m. I ignored it, made myself breakfast, scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, toast with butter. I took my time, chewing slowly, scrolling through my phone. The doorbell kept ringing. Then the pounding started. Dolores, open this door. This is my house." I finished my eggs. "Dolores, you can't lock me out of my own house." I buttered my toast. "I'm calling the police, you hear me? I'm calling the cops." I sipped my coffee and waited. The police arrived at 6:15 a.m. 2 officers, one older black man who looked tired, one younger Hispanic woman who looked alert despite the early hour. I opened the door before they could knock. "Good morning, officers. I assume you're here about the noise complaint?" The older officer, his name tag read Officer Mitchell, looked confused. "Ma'am, we got a call about a man locked out of his residence. Says his wife changed the locks illegally." "Oh, that." I stepped back. "Please come in. Can I offer you coffee?" They exchanged glances but followed me inside. Mark was on the lawn, disheveled, his tuxedo rumpled. He looked like he'd been on a plane all night, which he had. "Officers, thank God. This woman has lost her mind. She changed the locks on my house, canceled my credit cards." "His house?" I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my ears. "Officer Mitchell, Officer Rodriguez," I read her name tag. "Could you please look at this?" I pulled up the county property records on my phone. As you can see, this house is solely in my name, purchased in 1991 with funds from my inheritance. The deed has never been in his name. Officer Rodriguez took my phone, studied it. "Sir, is this accurate?" "That's not... I live here. I've lived here for 34 years. "Which you're welcome to continue doing," I said sweetly, "as soon as you move your new wife out. Or should I say, as soon as you find somewhere else to live with your new wife." "New wife?" Officer Mitchell's eyebrows shot up. I pulled up Mark's text on my phone, the photo of him and Whitney in front of the chapel, the message calling me pathetic. He texted me this at 2:47 this morning. As you can see, he got married in Las Vegas last night, to his coworker, while still legally married to me. Well, I assume we're still legally married. I haven't filed for divorce yet. That's Monday's task. Officer Rodriguez looked at the phone, then at Mark, then back at me. "Sir, is this you in this photo?" Mark's face went red, then white, then red again. "That's... I can explain. Did you get married to another woman last night?" "It was just... we were drunk. It doesn't mean..." "So that's a yes." Officer Mitchell's voice was flat. "Ma'am, this is a civil matter. But given that this is your property, and you have documentation proving it, you have every right to deny him access. Sir, I suggest you find somewhere else to stay while you sort this out." "You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not our concern." Officer Rodriguez handed my phone back to me. "Ma'am, if he continues to harass you or refuses to leave the property, call us and we'll issue a trespassing citation." I watched from the doorway as Mark stood on the lawn, the morning sun rising behind him, his cheap tuxedo looking even more ridiculous in the daylight. The officers walked back to their patrol car. He stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure, impotent rage. "You'll regret this, Dolores. I promise you that." I closed the door. The house felt different in the quiet that followed. Bigger. Emptier. But also cleaner somehow. Like I'd opened all the windows and let fresh air sweep through rooms that had been stale for years. I walked through each space, the living room with the couch we'd bought together, the dining room where we'd hosted Thanksgivings, the bedroom where we'd slept side by side for decades. How long had he been planning this? 8 months since the affair started, according to his text. But when had he decided I was pathetic? When had he looked at me and decided I wasn't worth even a conversation? Just a cruel text message at 2:47 in the morning? I sat down at my office desk and opened my laptop. My hands moved automatically, typing his email address into the search bar. We shared an old tablet, one he thought I'd forgotten about. The kind that syncs messages if you don't turn off the backup feature, which Mark, who could barely work his smartphone, definitely hadn't. The tablet was in the drawer where I'd left it months ago. I turned it on. It took 45 minutes to read through everything, every message, every photo, every detail of a betrayal that was so much worse than I'd imagined. The affair had started exactly 10 months ago, not 8. Whitney had pursued him at first, or so he'd told himself in messages to his friend Calvin. But by the second month, Mark was the one making plans. Secret hotel rooms, lies about business trips, a whole second life I'd known nothing about. But it was the messages from 3 weeks ago that made my hands finally shake. Whitney: when are you going to leave her? Mark: soon, I'm working on it. Whitney: you keep saying that. Mark: look, I need to be smart about this. She's got money, her teacher's pension, the house, her mother's inheritance that she won't tell me about. I know there's more. I just need to find it before I make my move. Whitney: what kind of move? Mark: the kind where I take her for everything, and she ends up with nothing. She's been freeloading off my success for years. Time for payback. I read that message 3 times. Freeloading off his success. I'd paid for this house. I'd paid for his car when his credit was too bad to get a loan. I'd covered the mortgage when he was between jobs. Twice. And he thought I was freeloading. There were more messages, plans to access my accounts, discussions about finding my safety deposit box key, conversations about making sure the divorce favored him, Whitney offering to help research my financial situation, both of them laughing about how clueless I was. Then I found the message from yesterday morning. Mark: screw waiting for the perfect time. Let's just do it. Vegas tonight? Marry me. Whitney: are you serious? Mark: dead serious. We'll tell her together, make her understand she never deserved me anyway. Then I'll move in with you, file for divorce, and take half of everything. She won't know what hit her. Whitney: God, I love you. Mark: love you too. Pack a bag. I booked flights. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Patterson, this is Gerald Hawthorne from Hawthorne and Associates. I've been retained by Mr. Mark Patterson to represent him in the dissolution of your marriage. Please contact me at your earliest convenience to discuss settlement terms. I should inform you that Mr. Patterson intends to seek equitable distribution of all marital assets, including but not limited to the residence at 847 Oakmont Avenue, all retirement accounts, and any inheritances received during the marriage. We look forward to resolving this matter swiftly. I stared at the message. Then I looked back at the tablet, at the messages where Mark and Whitney had laughed about taking everything I owned, at the photos of them together, at the cruel words he'd written about me to his mistress-turned-wife. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Dolores Patterson. Mrs. Patterson, Gerald Hawthorne. Did you receive my text? I did. Good. Now Mr. Patterson is willing to be reasonable if you cooperate. He understands this is emotional for you, but... Mr. Hawthorne, before we continue, I have a question. Of course. Did Mark tell you he got married in Las Vegas last night, while still married to me? Silence on the other end. Mr. Hawthorne? He mentioned you were separated. We weren't. I have the text message he sent me at 2:47 this morning showing me his wedding photo. Would you like me to forward it to you? More silence. I see. I'll need to consult with my client. You do that. I hung up. The tablet screen had gone dark. I tapped it awake and scrolled through more messages. And that's when I found it. The message that changed everything. Whitney to Mark, dated 6 weeks ago. My cousin works at Fidelity. I told him about your situation. He says if your wife has any accounts there, he might be able to accidentally give us access to the information, for a fee. Mark's response. How much? Whitney. $5,000. Mark. Done. Tell him I'll pay cash. I sat back in my chair. Bigamy was one thing. Adultery was one thing. But conspiracy to commit financial fraud? That was something else entirely. The morning sun was fully up now, streaming through the office window. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then the doorbell rang. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. A man in a suit stood on my porch holding a briefcase. Behind him, parked in my driveway, was a car with government plates. I opened the door. Mrs. Dolores Patterson? Yes? He pulled out a badge. Special Agent Marcus Chen, FBI. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your husband and his relationship with Whitney Castellano. May I come in? The FBI agent stood in my living room, his badge still in his hand, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not suspicion. More like concern. Maybe pity. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to understand something right away. You're not in trouble. But your husband and Whitney Castellano are part of an ongoing investigation into financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. I led him to the kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten breakfast 2 hours ago while Mark pounded on my door. The coffee pot was still warm. I poured us both a cup without asking if he wanted one. How long have you been investigating them? 3 months. We received a tip from Fidelity Investments about suspicious activity. Multiple attempts to access customer accounts without authorization. Whitney's cousin. He pulled out a small notebook. Derek Castellano. He's a junior analyst there. He got greedy, started bragging to the wrong people about his side business, selling customer information to people wanting to access their spouse's accounts before divorce proceedings. My hands wrapped around my coffee mug. How many people? Derek's helped at least 15 people illegally access accounts. Your husband was number 16. But here's where it gets complicated. He leaned forward. We have evidence that Mark paid Derek $5,000 in cash 3 weeks ago. Derek provided him with access codes to what he thought was your Fidelity account. But the account number Mark gave him? It wasn't yours. Whose was it? We don't know yet. That's why I'm here. We need to know if Mark has access to anyone else's financial information. Parents, siblings, other family members. My mind raced. My mother died 2 years ago. She had accounts at Fidelity. Her estate went through probate, everything was distributed, but... I stopped, stood up, walked to my office with the agent following. I pulled out another file folder. My mother's estate documents. The distribution had been complicated because she'd had 3 daughters. Me, my sister Rochelle, and my younger sister Vanessa. Everything split 3 ways. Except... There was a trust, I said slowly, flipping through pages. My mother set up a trust for her grandchildren. $50,000 to be distributed when they turned 21. My daughter Simone just turned 21 last month. The agent was writing in his notebook. Do you have the account information? I found the document. The account number. My hands went cold. That's it, the agent said quietly. That's the account Mark tried to access. He was going to steal from his own daughter. Mrs. Patterson, I need to ask, does Mark know about this trust? Yes. He helped me set up the distributions. He has... I stopped talking, stopped breathing, because I suddenly understood what had happened. Mark had power of attorney over Simone's trust. I'd given it to him last year when I had surgery and needed someone to handle the paperwork if something happened to me. It was temporary. It was supposed to expire after I recovered. Mrs. Patterson? He still has power of attorney. I never revoked it after my surgery. Oh my God, he could have just taken the money legally. But he didn't. Why? I sat down hard in my office chair. Because Simone would have noticed. She checks that account religiously. She's been planning to use it for graduate school. If he'd done it legally, there'd be a paper trail pointing right to him. But if he could access it through Derek, make it look like a hack or a bank error. I looked up at the agent. He could have blamed it on the bank, claimed it was their security failure. Simone would have gotten her money back through insurance, and Mark would have gotten away with $50,000. That's exactly what we think he planned. But Derek got sloppy, bragged to his girlfriend who happens to work in compliance. She reported him. The agent closed his notebook. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to secure that account immediately. Call the bank, explain the situation, revoke the power of attorney. I was already picking up my phone when it buzzed with incoming messages. Not calls, messages. Dozens of them. Facebook notifications, Instagram. Even my email was flooding with alerts. What the hell? I opened Facebook. My feed was filled with posts from Mark. Videos, photos, a whole campaign of content, all posted in the last hour. The first video showed Mark sitting in what looked like a hotel room, his face the picture of wounded innocence. I need to tell you all what's happening to me. My wife, Dolores, she's always been controlling, but today she crossed a line. She locked me out of our house, the house I've paid for our entire marriage. She canceled my credit cards. She called the police on me and lied to them, said terrible things just to make me look bad. All because I finally found the courage to leave an abusive relationship. I watched in stunned silence as he wiped away fake tears. I know some of you are going to judge me for moving on, for finding love with someone who treats me with respect. But Whitney makes me happy in ways I haven't been happy in years. And now Dolores is trying to destroy me financially, emotionally, trying to turn everyone against me. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking you to see the truth. I'm not the villain here. I'm the victim. The comments were already rolling in, hundreds of them. Stay strong, Mark. I always knew there was something off about Dolores. You deserve happiness. My phone rang. My sister Rochelle. Dolores, what the hell is going on? Mark is all over Facebook saying you abused him? Rochelle, I can't talk right now. Did you really lock him out of the house? Yes, because he married another woman in Vegas last night. He what? The agent was watching me, still standing in my office doorway. I put Rochelle on speaker. He texted me at 2:47 this morning with a photo of him and his coworker Whitney getting married in Las Vegas. Then he came home and tried to get in the house. Rochelle, it gets worse. The FBI is here. He's been trying to steal from Simone's trust fund. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm coming over. No, wait, I need to... She'd already hung up. The agent cleared his throat. Mrs. Patterson, I understand you have a lot happening right now, but we need to secure that account. I called Fidelity. Got transferred 3 times. Finally reached someone in fraud prevention. Explained the situation. Revoked the power of attorney. Set up new security protocols. It took 45 minutes, and by the time I was done, my sister was at my door and my phone had 200 new Facebook notifications. Rochelle came in like a hurricane, all 5'2" of her vibrating with rage. Let me see the messages. I showed her everything. The Vegas wedding text, the recovered messages from the tablet, the plan to take me for everything. She read in silence, her jaw getting tighter and tighter. That son of a bitch. Ma'am, the agent interjected, I'm going to need copies of those messages. They show intent, which strengthens our case against him and Whitney. Take whatever you need, I said. I want him buried." The agent spent another hour in my house, photographing evidence, taking my statement, explaining what would happen next. Mark and Whitney would be arrested within the week. Derek was already in custody. The case was solid. "What about the bigamy?" I asked. "He married Whitney while still married to me." "That's a separate legal matter, but yes, you can pursue charges if you want. In the meantime, I'd suggest getting a good lawyer. A really good one." After he left, Rochelle and I sat at the kitchen table. The house felt like a war zone, even though no shots had been fired. "You need to fight back," Rochelle said. "Mark's out there telling everyone you're abusive. You need to tell your side." "I don't want to air my dirty laundry on Facebook." "Then you're going to let him control the narrative. Is that what you want?" My phone rang again. This time it was Pastor Williams from First Baptist, the church Mark and I had attended for 20 years. "Sister Dolores, I've been seeing some troubling posts online. I wanted to reach out, see if you needed prayer or support." The kindness in his voice broke something in me. I started crying for the first time since 2:47 a.m. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Rochelle took the phone. "Pastor Williams, this is Rochelle, Dolores' sister. We need more than prayer right now. We need the truth to come out. Can she come to church tomorrow? Can she speak to the congregation?" I could hear his voice through the phone, warm and reassuring. "Of course. Sunday service during testimony time. We'll make space for her." That night, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, watching Mark's posts multiply. He'd started a GoFundMe. "Help Mark rebuild his life after financial abuse." It had already raised $3,000. Whitney was posting too. Photos of her and Mark together, captions about true love and overcoming obstacles. In one photo, they were kissing, her hand prominently displayed to show off a ring. Not a wedding ring. An engagement ring. Expensive looking. I zoomed in on the photo. That ring looked familiar. I walked to my bedroom, to my jewelry box, and opened it with shaking hands. My grandmother's ring was gone. The diamond solitaire she'd given me before she died. The one I'd been saving to pass down to Simone. He'd stolen it, given it to Whitney. Proposed with my grandmother's ring. I called Simone. It was midnight, but she answered on the second ring. "Mom, is it true? Dad got married to someone else?" "Baby, I need to tell you everything. Can you come home?" "I'm already in my car." She arrived at 1:30 a.m., her eyes red from crying. I told her everything. The affair, the messages, the FBI investigation, the attempted theft from her trust fund. When I got to that part, she went very still. "He tried to steal my graduate school money?" "Yes." "The money Grandma left me because she wanted to make sure I could get an education?" "Yes." She stood up, pulled out her phone, and started recording a video. "Hi, everyone. This is Simone Patterson. Some of you have seen my father's posts about my mother. I need to tell you the truth. My father didn't just cheat on my mom. He didn't just marry someone else while still married to her. He tried to steal $50,000 from my trust fund. The FBI is investigating him for fraud. And anyone who gave money to his GoFundMe? You just funded a criminal. I'll be posting proof of everything I'm saying. Screenshots, documents, everything. Mark Patterson is not a victim. He's a thief and a liar." She posted it to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Within an hour, it had 10,000 views. By morning, it had 100,000. Sunday service at First Baptist was packed. Word had spread. The church was full of people I'd known for decades, people who'd seen Mark's posts, people who wanted to know the truth. Pastor Williams called me up during testimony time. I walked to the pulpit on shaking legs, looked out at the congregation, saw my sisters, my daughter, my neighbors, my former colleagues from Roosevelt Elementary. "I want to tell you a story," I began. My voice was steady, strong. "About a woman who spent 34 years building a life with a man who saw her as nothing but a bank account to drain." I told them everything. Every detail, The 2:47 a.m. text, the Vegas wedding, the recovered messages showing Mark's plan to take me for everything. The FBI investigation, the attempted theft from Simone's trust fund. When I finished, the church was silent. Then someone started clapping, then another person. Then everyone was on their feet, applauding, crying, shouting amen and, "Tell it, sister." After the service, at least 30 people came up to me, offering support, offering to testify in court if I needed character witnesses, offering money, meals, prayers, anything I needed. One woman, Sister Margaret, pulled me aside. "Honey, my nephew is a lawyer, one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. He owes me a favor. Let me call him." That afternoon, I met with attorney Julian Hayes in his downtown office. He was sharp, mid-40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. "Mrs. Patterson, I've already done some preliminary research into your case. Based on what you've told me and what I'm seeing in the public record, you have an extremely strong position. The house is in your name. The cards were in your name. He committed bigamy. And now there's a federal investigation into fraud. I can almost guarantee you'll get everything in the divorce." "What about his social media campaign?" "We'll subpoena everything. Every post, every message, every comment. And here's what's going to happen in court. Mark thinks he's being clever, playing the victim. But he's actually creating evidence against himself. Every lie he posts, that's documentation of his character. Every claim of abuse, we'll disprove it with witnesses, with your clean record, with testimony from people who know you." "How long will this take?" "Normally, 6 months, maybe a year. But given the criminal investigation, we can probably expedite it. 3 months, tops." I felt something loosen in my chest. Hope, maybe. Or just relief that someone was on my side who knew what they were doing. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Detective Sarah Rodriguez. I met you yesterday morning at your home. I'm calling with an update about Mark Patterson." "Yes?" "We have him in custody. He and Whitney Castellano were arrested an hour ago at the Marriott downtown. They're being charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted larceny. But there's something else you need to know." My lawyer leaned in, listening. "Whitney's already flipped on him. She's giving us everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. And what she's telling us—" The detective paused. "Mrs. Patterson, did you know Mark's mother was involved in this scheme?" The room tilted. "What?" "Dorothy Patterson. She's been helping Mark access your financial information for months. Apparently, she's the one who suggested he go after Simone's trust fund. She told him exactly how to do it." My mother-in-law, the woman who'd smiled to my face at every family gathering, who'd hugged me at my mother's funeral, who'd told me she thought of me as a daughter. She'd been helping Mark destroy me. "We're bringing her in for questioning tomorrow," Detective Rodriguez continued. "I wanted to give you a heads up before it hits the news. This case is getting bigger than we initially thought." After I hung up, my lawyer looked at me with something like awe. "Mrs. Patterson, I've been doing this for 20 years. I have never seen a case this clear-cut or this damning for the opposing party. Mark Patterson just went from trying to take you for everything to losing absolutely everything himself." I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, but all I felt was tired. That night, my phone exploded with notifications again. But this time, they weren't Mark's posts. Whitney had posted a photo. Her and a young man, maybe 22, both of them in a hot tub somewhere tropical. The caption, "New beginnings with my real soulmate. Sorry, Mark, you were just a stepping stone." The comments were vicious. People who'd supported Mark hours ago were now tearing him apart. The GoFundMe had been shut down for fraud. His employer had posted a statement about terminating him for workplace fraternization violations. Whitney's employer had done the same. Mark's mother posted, "I didn't raise my son to be a fool. Dolores, I'm sorry. Call me." I deleted the message without responding. My phone rang. Simone. Mom, turn on Channel 7 News. Now. I grabbed the remote. The evening news was on. And there was Mark's face on the screen. A mugshot. The anchor was talking about the FBI investigation, the fraud charges, the bigamy. Then they showed Whitney's mugshot, and Derek's, and... Breaking news tonight, Dorothy Patterson, mother of Mark Patterson, has also been taken into custody in connection with the fraud investigation. Sources say she may have been the mastermind behind the scheme to defraud multiple family members, including her own granddaughter. The screen showed my mother-in-law being led out of her house in handcuffs. I turned off the TV. My house was quiet, peaceful even. The new locks on the doors, the fresh coffee in the pot. The knowledge that every single person who'd tried to destroy me was now facing federal charges. But as I sat there in the silence, my phone buzzed one more time. A text from another unknown number. "Mrs. Patterson, this is Whitney. I need to talk to you. It's about Mark. There's something he did that even the FBI doesn't know about yet. Something that's going to destroy your life if you don't act fast. Meet me tomorrow. Come alone. Or everything you think you've won will disappear." I stared at Whitney's text until the words blurred. Something the FBI doesn't know about. Something that could destroy everything I'd won. My lawyer's voice echoed in my head. Never meet with the opposing party without legal representation. But Whitney wasn't the opposing party anymore. She'd flipped on Mark. She was working with the FBI, so why would she threaten me? I forwarded the text to Detective Rodriguez and to Julian Hayes. Then I typed back, "I'll meet you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Rosie's Diner on 5th Street, public place. I'm bringing my lawyer." Her response came immediately. "Fine, but you'll want to hear this alone." I didn't sleep that night. I kept running through possibilities. What could Mark have done that was worse than fraud, bigamy, and conspiracy? What could possibly destroy me now? At 9:45 a.m., Julian and I walked into Rosie's Diner. Whitney was already there, sitting in a back booth, looking nothing like the confident woman from the hot tub photos. Her eyes were red, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing an oversized sweatshirt that looked like she'd slept in it. She looked up when I approached, and I saw something in her face I didn't expect. Genuine fear. "Mrs. Patterson, thank you for coming." "What do you want, Whitney?" She glanced at Julian. "Who's this?" "My lawyer. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of him." She took a shaky breath. "Mark has a storage unit, one you don't know about. He's been renting it for 2 years under a fake name, his cousin's name, actually. I found the key in his wallet after we got arrested." "What's in it?" "Documents. Forged documents. Deeds, titles, power of attorney papers. Mrs. Patterson, Mark's been preparing for this divorce for 2 years. He has forged paperwork that makes it look like you signed over half your assets to him voluntarily. The house deed, your retirement accounts, everything. And if those documents make it into court before the FBI seizes them..." Julian's voice was sharp. "Where is this storage unit?" "Storemaster on Henderson Avenue, Unit 247. The name on the rental agreement is Kevin Patterson. That's Mark's cousin. But here's the thing. Kevin doesn't know about it. Mark stole his identity to rent it." I felt cold. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm not going to prison for that man." Her voice cracked. "I thought he loved me. I thought we were building a life together. But 2 days after we got married, he told me his real plan. He was going to divorce you, take everything using those forged documents, then divorce me and keep it all. I was just a tool, someone young and stupid enough to believe his lies. So you're saving yourself?" "I'm trying to do the right thing. Finally." She pushed a key across the table. "This is the storage unit key. The FBI doesn't know about it yet because I just found it yesterday. If you go there now, you can get those documents before Mark's lawyer figures out they exist, because if his lawyer gets them first, they'll try to use them even though they're forged. Julian finished. "And we'll have to spend months proving they're fake. Meanwhile, the court might freeze your assets pending investigation." I took the key. 30 minutes later, I was standing in front of Storage Unit 247 with Julian, Detective Rodriguez, and a warrant the detective had somehow obtained in record time. Inside the unit were filing boxes, dozens of them. I opened the first one and found my life meticulously recreated in forgeries. Deeds with my signature, perfect copies probably traced from real documents, power of attorney papers I'd never signed, even a fake will leaving everything to Mark. "This must have cost him thousands of dollars," Julian whispered. "Professional forgeries, notary stamps." He was serious. Detective Rodriguez was photographing everything. "This adds about 5 more felony counts. Mrs. Patterson, Whitney just saved your entire financial future." The preliminary hearing was 3 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom wearing my best navy suit, the one I'd worn to my retirement ceremony from Roosevelt Elementary. Mark sat across the aisle in a bright white suit that looked like he was going to a beach wedding, not a criminal proceeding. His new lawyer, the public defender assigned after Gerald Hawthorne dropped him, looked exhausted. Mark kept whispering to him, gesturing, insisting. The lawyer kept shaking his head. The prosecutor was a sharp woman named Angela Reeves, who'd made it clear she intended to throw the book at everyone involved. She started with the fraud charges, walking through the evidence methodically. The storage unit documents, the messages planning the theft, Whitney's testimony about Mark's real intentions. Then she got to the bigamy. "Your Honor, the defendant married Whitney Castellano in Las Vegas on October 15th, while still legally married to Dolores Patterson. He has shown no remorse for this action. In fact, his social media posts indicate he believed he was entitled to move on to a new relationship while still married because, and I quote, "I deserved happiness." The judge, a stern older woman named Patricia Thornton, looked at Mark over her glasses. "Mr. Patterson, is it true you posted on social media that your wife was financially abusive?" Mark stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. She locked me out of my own house." "A house solely in her name, correct?" "Well, yes, but I lived there." "And she canceled credit cards that were in her name?" "They were for both of us to use, but legally in her name, with her as the primary account holder and you as an authorized user?" Mark's face was getting red. "Your Honor, she was trying to hurt me." "By protecting her own assets after you married another woman?" Judge Thornton's voice was ice. "Mr. Patterson, I've reviewed the evidence in this case. The storage unit full of forged documents. The conspiracy to defraud your own daughter. The social media campaign designed to destroy your wife's reputation. In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a calculated attempt to destroy another person." She turned to Mark's lawyer. "Counselor, I assume your client understands the gravity of these charges?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Then let's discuss bail." The prosecutor stood. "The people request remand, Your Honor. Mr. Patterson has already demonstrated he's a flight risk by fleeing to Las Vegas. He has no stable residence, no employment, and significant motivation to flee given the evidence against him." "Your Honor, my client can stay with his parents," the public defender started. "His mother is also facing charges in this case," Judge Thornton interrupted. "Bail is denied. Mr. Patterson will remain in custody until trial." Mark's face went white, then purple. "You can't do this. I have rights. This is discrimination. My wife is the criminal here. She—" "Mr. Patterson, you will sit down and be quiet, or I will add contempt of court to your growing list of charges." He sat down. After the hearing, I stood on the courthouse steps with Julian, Rochelle, and Simone. News cameras were everywhere. The story had become national news, the cheating husband who tried to defraud his wife and got caught by the FBI. A reporter pushed a microphone toward me. "Mrs. Patterson, how do you feel about today's outcome?" "I feel like justice is finally being served. My husband tried to destroy me financially and emotionally. He failed. And now he's facing the consequences of his choices. What about Whitney Castellano? She's cooperating with authorities. Whitney made mistakes, but she's trying to make them right. That takes courage. That night, my phone exploded with messages again. But this time, they were all supportive. Friends from church, former students, neighbors, even people I hadn't talked to in years, all reaching out to say they believed me, they supported me, they were sorry for what I'd gone through. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later, but Mark's lawyer called Julian 3 weeks in asking to negotiate. "What are they offering?" I asked. Julian smiled. "Nothing. They're asking what you'll accept to make this go away quietly. Tell them I want everything the law allows me to have. Done." The final divorce hearing was almost anticlimactic. Mark showed up in the same ridiculous white suit, now wrinkled and stained. His parents weren't with him. His mother was still in custody. His father had apparently disowned him. Judge Thornton reviewed the settlement agreement. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Mrs. Patterson retains sole ownership of the marital residence. All retirement accounts remain in her name. Mr. Patterson receives no portion of any inheritance Mrs. Patterson received during the marriage. Additionally, Mr. Patterson will pay Mrs. Patterson $500 per month in spousal support for the next 10 years. Mark's lawyer looked miserable. "Yes, Your Honor." "Mr. Patterson, do you understand these terms?" Mark's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes." "And you agree to them?" "I don't have a choice." "You had a choice 34 years ago to be a faithful, honest husband. You made different choices. Now you face the consequences. Divorce granted." The gavel came down. I walked out of that courtroom a free woman. Officially, legally free. But the story wasn't quite over. 2 days later, I got a call from Detective Rodriguez. "Mrs. Patterson, I thought you'd want to know. Whitney Castellano pleaded guilty this morning. She's getting 3 years probation and community service. But Mark, he's going to trial. The prosecutor thinks she can get him 7 to 10 years. And his mother? Dorothy Patterson took a plea deal. 2 years in federal prison, followed by supervised release. She's cooperating, giving us information about other schemes she helped plan." I thanked the detective and hung up. That afternoon, I was in my backyard, pulling weeds from the garden I'd neglected during all the legal chaos, when my phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. Whitney had posted again. This time, a photo of her and the young bartender from the hot tub picture. The caption, "Moving to Costa Rica with my real love, leaving all the drama behind. Mark, if you're reading this, you were always just a paycheck to me. Hope prison treats you well." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Mark had tried to use Whitney. Whitney had tried to use Mark. They'd both ended up with nothing but criminal records. The following Sunday, Pastor Williams asked me to share an update with the congregation. I stood at that same pulpit and told them about the trial, the divorce, the victory. "But here's what I want you all to know," I said. "This isn't just a story about revenge or justice. It's a story about knowing your worth. For too long, I let Mark make me feel small, like I wasn't enough, like I should be grateful he stayed. But I built the life he tried to steal. I earned every penny he tried to take. And when he showed me who he really was, I believed him." The congregation erupted in amens. That night, Rochelle took me out to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. "You did it," she said, raising her wine glass. "You actually did it. I had a lot of help. You had courage. That's what you had." 6 months later, I sold the house on Oakmont Avenue. Too many memories, too much Mark in every room. I bought a smaller place in a better neighborhood, a cute bungalow with a front porch and a garden full of roses. Simone finished her first semester of graduate school with a 4.0 GPA. She called me every week to tell me about her classes, her research, her dreams. Mark's trial ended with a guilty verdict on all counts. 7 years in federal prison. His lawyer filed an appeal. It was denied. Dorothy Patterson served her 2 years and was released on supervised probation. She tried to contact me once, through a letter. I returned it unopened. Whitney, true to her word, moved to Costa Rica with her bartender boyfriend. Last I heard, they'd opened a surf shop. As for me, I started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping other women navigate divorce from abusive or deceptive partners. I shared my story, my strategies, my lawyer's contact information. I became the person I'd needed when Mark sent that 2:47 a.m. text. And I started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee here and there with men I met through friends or at church events. One of them, a retired engineer named Bernard, made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in years. On the 1-year anniversary of the morning I changed my locks, I stood on the porch of my new house, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. My phone buzzed. A text from Bernard asking if I wanted to grab breakfast. I smiled and typed back, yes. Then I deleted Mark's old messages, every single one, including that photo from Vegas. Deleted the screenshots. Deleted the evidence I'd been carrying around like armor. I didn't need them anymore. The truth had won. Justice had been served. And I had my life back. Not the life I'd had before, but something better. Something I'd built for myself, by myself, on my own terms. Mark was in prison. Whitney was gone. Dorothy was broken. And I was free. Finally, completely, joyfully free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.